everyone. I'm Tyler Chrestman, and welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Today we're going to talk about a story that is awful, terrible, and more than likely before the end of this podcast is going to get me all pissed off. Everyone, I'm sure at this point in the past 2 days, has now seen the video. We're going to be talking about the shooting of Admaud Arbery. I've seen a couple different pronunciations of his name. I believe that is the correct one, Admaud Arbery. But if it's not, I'm going to apologize in advance because that's how I've heard it pronounced. That's how we're going to pronounce it. But the way we're going to structure this is first we're going to go over some facts, some just flat out facts we know about the case. And then we're going to talk about some of the breakdown and all the things surrounding this, some of the controversy, things people are getting right, things people are getting wrong. We're going to do all of that after we get just the baseline of the facts. So here are the facts just in the straight, unadulterated fashion. We know that the shooting occurred February 23rd at 1300. Admaud Arbery was a 25-year-old black male who was jogging down the street of a neighborhood and when Gregory McMichael saw him and claimed he looked like someone who had committed a string of robberies in the area. Gregory called his son Travis. They grabbed guns and jumped in their truck. They followed Arbery down the road and then used their truck to try and block him in. They were yelling, "Stop, we want to talk to you." Arbery attempted to run around the truck while Travis, the son, the younger one, got out of the driver's seat armed with a shotgun. As Arbery rounded the front door of the truck, he ran towards Travis and a scuffle ensued in which Arbery we heard 3 shots on the video. Arbery was hit twice, killing him just there in the street. Now those are just the straight facts. That's the cut and dry version of what happened exactly without any justification or explanation. Now here's some things I can say just from watching the video. Watching the video before we go into anything else, watching the video by itself, how those men weren't in jail from the beginning makes absolutely no sense to me. The law in Georgia, this prosecutor's office down there should be investigated. I don't understand. The first 2 prosecutors in this case have recused themselves. Gregory McMichael used to be a police officer, and he did some investigative work for the prosecutor's office. So I believe one of the prosecutors, the first one who recused, I might have this backwards. The first one who recused was because Gregory had worked for her office, and the second one who recused did it because there was some connection through the police department between the prosecutor and Gregory McMichael. And then the third one came and has decided that this is going to go to the grand jury. But this happened in February, the end of February. So let's see here. February, March, April, and we are now in May. This is 2 months later, almost 2.5 months at this point. Yeah, a week at the end of February and a week at the beginning of May. The 2.5 months have gone by and these people haven't been charged with the crime. They were never arrested for this. This is insane. And part of this is because of this prosecutor's office being inept or corrupt. I'm not sure which, but one or the other. And the other is these ridiculous laws in Georgia that make any of this even remotely justifiable. So Gregory McMichael said that initially the claim was that they shot Arbery in self-defense. Now, that by itself right there is a nonsensical justification. Now, I am a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I think that concealed carry laws are good. I think people who responsibly carry firearms, that's great. That's fantastic. That is not what this is. This is not a situation when someone with a concealed carry, someone who was responsibly carrying a firearm, felt in danger for their lives, pulled a gun and shot someone to death. That's not what this is. These men went out looking for Arbery in the street, attempted to detain him against his will, and then as a man walking down the street, if a man with a gun attempts to stop me, my reaction is going to be to fight that man. Unless it's an officer of the law, which these men were not. They were not in uniform. They did not identify themselves as officers of the law. These are 2 men in a truck attempting to stop someone out for a jog on foot. If that happens to me in a situation, I would do exactly what Arbery did. He went around the truck. He tried to run around the truck, which blocked his path, which followed him down the road, went in front of him, and then blocked his path. He was trying to run around the truck. And as he rounded the front of the truck, it appears he sees that Travis has a shotgun. He's holding a shotgun in his arms, and he sprints at him, and he grabs the gun and begins fighting him for the weapon. That seems like a natural reaction. To claim self-defense because you pull a gun on someone who's out for a jog is nonsense. I don't know how that justification was ever attempted to fly, and a prosecutor should look at that and laugh. You will go out and look for trouble, and then you claim self-defense? No. Even in a stand your ground state, that doesn't hold up. You don't get to do that. So then they've invoked this ridiculous Georgia statute about the citizen's arrest. And that doesn't hold up to scrutiny, because in the Georgia Penal Code itself, it says that someone, in order to invoke a citizen's arrest, has to witness a felony or witness a crime in progress, and then attempts to arrest and it takes the person in custody immediately to the magistrate. You don't get to stop someone and detain them for questioning. That's not covered in a citizen's arrest, which is what Gregory McMichael said they were attempting to do with Arbery. You also don't get to have third-hand knowledge of a crime. So the reason why George McMichael called the police on Arbery running down the street in the first place, he said there had been a string of break-ins in the neighborhood in the recent weeks, and he had seen Arbery looking around an open construction site. Now, he saw him at the most trespass. At the most. He hadn't stolen anything. He hadn't done anything. At the most, he was trespassing on an open construction site, and then continued to jog down the road. Now, none of that constitutes a citizen's arrestable offense. You do not get to go and detain someone for the crime of trespassing. He called the police, then got in his truck with a .357 Magnum. His son Travis grabbed a shotgun, and then they chased this man down for trespassing on suspicion that he looked like someone who might have burgled the neighborhood before in the past. None of this qualifies for a citizen's arrest. I'm not a lawyer. This seems clearly indicated by the statute itself, the way it's written. You have to knowingly witness a felony. That's in the statute. And the prosecutor said, they were invoking the citizen's arrest clause, therefore we can't bring charges against them. That guy should be investigated for corruption. That's insane. And the fact, there's a reason why today or yesterday people saw all these things on the news, why this became a social media frenzy, why there is so much that we are now seeing about this case. It's because there was video of this entire thing. There's cell phone video of the entire shooting at the end. But it didn't get released in February or March or April. It got released on Tuesday of this week. And so when the video was released, everyone now, outside of the county in which this happened, everyone now has evidence that shows this is a terrible crime that was committed. This is not acceptable for anyone to be out on the street after gunning a man down in the street for the crime of trespassing on suspicion of burglary, a man with no weapon. And not an officer of the law. This all changes. This all changes if Gregory McMichael is a policeman in uniform. If a policeman in uniform tells you to stop running in the street, he wants to ask you questions. You stop and you answer his questions. That's just the way it goes. If you run at an officer of the law in a wrestle over a weapon and he shoots you, then you are going to have some issues. Yeah, if you get shot, then all of a sudden this is a different story. And I've gotten criticism in the past about this. Some of the biggest critiques I've ever gotten are articles I've written about police shootings. And my argument is always the same. Very consistent on this. You don't get to fight with a police officer. You don't get to. You don't get to wrestle with them. You don't get to do anything. And on cases where people don't and they still get shot, then guess what? Everyone winds up being on the side of that person. I don't see people out there right now defending these guys, not in large scale. I am tied into the circles of people who activists claim would defend people like this. I know a lot of conservatives, and I happen to know a lot of white people. I don't see a lot of white people out there defending this. I don't see this as a. You don't even need to attribute racial motives to these men to say that they should be in jail. Like I'm not going to come out here and just say this was obviously racist intent. Now, it would be really easy to do that. It would be really easy for someone to just disparage the motives. But let's say that they're not racist. Let's say that they're just morons who wanted to take vigilante justice into their hands and thought that they were going to be big heroes. Guess what? Still a crime. Still in jail. You don't deserve to be walking around. And yesterday, after releasing the video of this man being murdered in the street, yesterday the prosecutor moved to arrest him because, guess what? When everyone's aware of the case and we all get to see the ineptitude of that office and the public outcry reaches its crescendo, then those men are in jail, and it happened immediately. But when they thought they could sweep it up, when they thought they could cover it up, when they thought that no one would care, then those guys walked the street for 2.5 months. This is the kind of thing that makes people outraged. And this is when the legal system appears to play favorites. And this is no good, because as someone who has defended the United States legal system in a large way a lot of the time, when it doesn't work well, we all should be outraged. And this is a case when it has not been working well for the past 2 months. The fact that you can chase someone down and then get off on self-defense. You don't get to initiate an engagement with someone and then claim self-defense. If I punch you in the face, then you fight back and I kill you, I don't get to claim self-defense if I initiate a confrontation. To chase someone down with guns and then act surprised when you're attacked, you don't get to claim self-defense. It's not self-defense in that case. It's insane that was ever allowed to fly in the first place. And the citizen's arrest statute, get that off the books. What a bunch of nonsense that is. A citizen's arrest. Call the police. Unless someone is about to do you bodily harm or harm someone else. If Arbery had been running through an abandoned construction site and in the process grabbed a woman and now dragged her down the street, that's citizen's arrest. If someone is in danger of being harmed, a man jogging down the street after visiting a construction site, and you think he may have burgled a house in the neighborhood days ago or weeks ago. CNN, by the way, reported that there had been no burglaries reported in the neighborhood. CNN reported that, and then someone else said there was one case of a burglary, but it wasn't reported to the police. So where Gregory McMichael got this string of burglaries from, I have no idea. So that as a justification just seems like a made-up nonsense. This obviously, in case anyone can't tell, this obviously upsets me greatly. This is just, I don't understand why those men weren't in jail for the past 2 months. And this case will go to the grand jury. One of the justifications, the newest prosecutor, this third prosecutor, who seems to be the third prosecutor involved, seems to have wanted to bring the men to trial. At least that has been the indication. One of the problem was he couldn't take it to the grand jury because the state law in Georgia right now on lockdown has made it convening a grand jury impossible until June. So that's part of the problem for at least this last prosecutor. But it's good. Those men were arrested yesterday, and I'm glad. I am glad. They should get their day in court. I can't just say those men are guilty of a crime. That's not my place. They appear guilty to me from watching the video, from reading the facts, from hearing their own personal statements, but they deserve their day in court like everyone else, and they'll get it. And you know what? I hope justice is served, and whatever that means, I just hope that the jury makes the right call. It's just an insane proposition to think that those men might go free. That's all. This is clearly a bad shoot. As someone who I will admit it right here. I love guns. I own guns. I think it's a responsibility for Americans to own weapons. I do. These men acted irresponsibly. You don't get to play police officer because you own a weapon. It doesn't give you authority over anyone. The fact that I own a weapon doesn't give me authority over anyone. What that does is prevent people from having authority over me. No one gets to stop me on the street and demand anything from me, with the exception of law enforcement officers. So anyway, this whole thing is just terrible from front to back. Let's talk about some of the ways that people are getting this wrong immediately. One, these men were not law enforcement officers. So this is more of a George Zimmerman kind of deal than anything else. And one of the things I've seen, this idea that this is an inherent demonstration of America's systemic racism. I see absolutely no way that this justifies any claim of the such. It's not. These are two morons acting like vigilantes. Maybe racially motivated, maybe not. Again, we don't even have to attribute that motive to them to know that they should be in jail. But any idea that this is a demonstration of America's systemic racism, it's a broader case you're going to have to make. This is a bad example to make that case. Again, terrible. But let's not just jump to that as a justification, because again, these men weren't officers of the law. They weren't operating in any capacity of authority. So under what system were they racist? It doesn't make any sense to make that claim. So let's not conflate this with the police shooting right off the bat, because these are two entirely different things. And let's stop the hyperbole that is just no good for anyone. The LeBron James tweet that every time a black man leaves his house, he's hunted in this country. It's just absurd. It really is. The murder rates in this country, compared to other places in the world, are not crazy, and they don't cut across racial lines. How many people are killed by the police every year? On average, 1,000. How many of them are black men? On average, 250 or thereabouts. Okay, 250 by the police every year. The majority of which don't have a giant controversy surrounded by them, because the majority of them are not controversial. And most people will acknowledge that. So 250 men are killed by the police every year, most of which are not controversial. Black men are killed by the police every year, most of which are not controversial. And they're hunted every single day. The amount of people murdered, black men murdered in this country, they're hunted every day, but they're hunted by other black men. The black on black crime rate is much, much higher. Again, 52% of the homicides in this country are committed by black men. And the overwhelming majority of their victims are other black men, typically young black males. That's a terrible fact. But to pretend that that black men are being systematically murdered by white men is the part of the claim that is just absurd. So when LeBron James says black men are hunted every day, what he's implying is that they're hunted down by the government, or they're hunted down by an oppressive white force in this country. And that's not true, and it's not helpful. It's not helpful in this situation to make claims like that. The fact is that if you're young and black, the number one cause of death in this country is homicide. But it's not homicide from the police, and it's not homicide from white people. It's homicide from other young black men. And that's an unfortunate fact. And it is something that should be addressed. But again, LeBron James isn't talking about that when he says that black men are hunted every day. When you hear those kind of claims, again, let's talk numbers. Let's talk the amount of people murdered. We know all of them. Everyone who's murdered, we know them. We know their name. We know when they were murdered. Sometimes we don't know by whom, but we know all of the people who die. And so we don't have to pretend that it's some sort of government force murdering black men en masse. It's not true. It's never been true. No, hold on. Stop. It has never been true in modern times. Since the Michael Brown thing. Since then, it hasn't been true. Let's not take that out of context. The government has systemically murdered lots of black men years ago, and we act as though some people act as though we've made no progress. You're seeing the term thrown around. This is a modern day lynching. I am not even opposed to using that kind of terminology in this case because these men clearly were acting inappropriately. This is the worst. This is one of the most. This entire thing obviously has got me very upset. How I hate when the justice system doesn't appear to work as it should, and this is just one of those cases. But again, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to overstate the case. Let's hold these men accountable. Let's have a conversation about the circumstances surrounding this, the terrible citizens arrest law that Georgia needs to strike down. That just seems out of place. These stand your ground laws, which someone should take a look at. Someone threatening you, some of them are too broad. And again, this is coming from a guy who, I love guns. I don't have a problem with people carrying guns. But you don't get to just shoot people in the street. You don't get to do it and then walk free. Doesn't happen. My biggest complaint has just been the way that people have now again, everyone likes to overstate their case. And if you're defending these guys, by the way, I don't understand your case. That is something that I honestly haven't seen a lot of people saying, oh, these guys didn't do anything wrong. I really haven't seen a lot of that online. I would be curious. I'm going to have to look more into it because I'm sure there are some people out there trying to defend their case, but I honestly haven't seen it. Not yet. And I've been on my normal websites, which are a lot of very liberal publications and then conservative websites as well. I haven't seen the people yet out there defending these McMichael men. And I'm glad because they don't seem like they need a lot of defense right now. I just want everyone to keep everything in perspective. We can be outraged over this case. I am. I certainly am. But let's not make the mistake of making too broad of a case about what this is. Sometimes a case is just a case. This is just a terrible thing that happened. We don't have to try and draw a larger social conclusion based off this one incident in Georgia, as if that's indicative of some widespread problem. I don't see a giant widespread problem of vigilante justice being done in 2020. I haven't seen it. I don't see any evidence for it. Especially the narrative, if it's white on black vigilante justice. Prejudice exists. Racism exists. We should try and stamp it out wherever we find it. But what we have to be really, really careful of is being very specific when we talk about it. You can't make broad claims. Racism is in the system. Show it to me. Let's find it together and stamp it out. But when you just say the system is racist, what does that help? How are we helping anyone? Show me how we can fix it. Tell me the issue that you want to address, and let's talk about it. But don't say the system is broken and then offer no solutions. To say black men are hunted every day, then LeBron James' stupid tweet. To use your platform to say something like that, all you're doing is fueling discontent with a system that works really well most of the time. If you raise men to distrust and dislike the society that they live in, what benefit do you think that has for the United States? Do you want the United States to change and get better? I'm willing to say the United States could be better in lots of ways. But you don't raise people to hate it. You don't raise people to dislike the system. You raise people to change the system. One of the benefits of the best things that were done by the civil rights movement was to say the system is broken. The United States isn't living up to its ideals. We're all Americans, and we all deserve justice. They didn't hate the United States. They hated the people who made the United States worse by not embracing the ideals. The ideals are that all men are created equal. And this country didn't live up to those ideals. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, this country has a duty to uphold the principles on which it was founded, which is that all men are created equal. It doesn't say all white men. It says all men. And men in this context means women. It's just a way to say humans. But all people are created equal. And America, you should do better. But it wasn't to say, America, you suck. America, you're terrible. You're racist. And we don't want anything to do with you. Your system is nonsense. That's a terrible worldview, and it's not helpful. So let's all keep it in perspective. Let's all try and remember that the overwhelming majority of people, this goes Democrats, progressives, Republicans, conservatives, the overwhelming majority of the people do not support racism. Yeah, I have not seen anything that would indicate that the United States has racist beliefs en masse. There are racists, there are prejudiced, there are bigots out there, but they don't hold power in a way that they used to. And wherever we find them, the outcry is so loud and it's so swift to take care of those problems that I don't see people trying to cover for racism anymore. It doesn't happen. Those people are drummed out of society very quickly, as they should be. The racists in 2020 can, I was going to use some bad language. I'm trying to avoid doing it on the podcast. But they can F right off. I have no tolerance for bigotry. And most people I know, even when, and here's a secret for any people who are watching who happen to not be white. Even when I'm in my secret rooms that there are no minorities, we don't talk about racism a lot. We don't make racist comments a lot. I'm not part of some secret white club. And anyone in the times in my life when that has happened, where someone thought because I was white that they could make some sort of snide racist comment, those people get shut down immediately. And that's how most white people are. And that's how this society is in mass. We live in the least racist, multi-ethnic, multicultural society in history. Let's make it better. Let's all make it better. But let's keep our perspective and realize that we already live in the best that we've ever seen. It can be better. I agree. But let's try and fix problems we can pin down and fix together. Don't just condemn everything with broad, sweeping statements like racism in the system. It's not helpful. Black men are hunted down every day. What are you talking about? Show me what you mean, and let's talk about that. Use your platform for good, not for fueling hatred. There's enough hatred out there. This is a terrible story, and I hope everyone... I don't think you should watch the video. I really don't. If you haven't seen it, don't go watch it. Don't watch that man be murdered. It's not worth it. You can be upset. Read the accounts. Read all the details that come out. Don't watch the video. You don't need to see it if you haven't seen it. It's watching people be murdered is something that most people don't need to see. You don't need to watch it. I would love for some feedback on this episode. People, if you got questions, if you got comments, leave them on the YouTube video. Shoot me an email if you don't want it to be public. I don't care. I would love for people, if you disagree with me on certain parts of this, if you agree, if you think I missed something or misspoke about something, just let me know. I would love to address any concerns, any comments, any criticism is always appreciated. Anyone who says, I think you failed to mention A, B, or C, or you took this out of context, or what you don't realize is this. I love those kind of comments. Just shoot them on over to me, either on the email, which will be linked to the video, or just leave them down in the YouTube comments, or I guess now on the Facebook page. We're going to leave it there today. This video went a little longer than normal. As you can tell, I'm fired up. This topic, this should make everyone mad. So I went on a little bit of a rant there. But I hope everyone has a great day, and we will get back to it soon. I'm off for the next few days. I might do another one of these in the next coming days. And if we get more information on this as this case progresses, we'll probably do another one on this, a follow-up, either after the grand jury or if more information comes out later this week maybe. But we're going to leave it there for the day. I am Tyler Chrestman. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and we'll see you later.